I've got some very historical news, something that will go down in history for people who are in the know, smart-minded, wise-minded individuals. For the first time ever, there will only be two major political parties running in the 2018 Ontario general election. Only two. One is the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario, run by Doug Ford as leader. And the second one, and final one, is the Liberal Party of Ontario, run by Kathleen Jezebel Cowperthwaite Wynne. Only two. There's no other. None. I know everyone's saying, what about the NDP? What about those socialists, them orange crush socialists? The NDP is not running in the 2018 Ontario general election. They're just not running. They're not running. Now, the media ain't going to tell you this, but they're not running. I'm telling you, the NDP ain't running. The reason why the NDP is not running is because the NDP of today in Ontario, currently run by Andrea Horwath, is nothing more than a puppet of the Ontario Liberal Party. That's it. They are not independent. They have voted with the Ontario Liberals in the legislature conservatively 75% of the time. There are a few things that they disagree on, but like the Hydro One privatization, that is something major that they disagree on. And of course, some of the cuts, or many of the cuts that the Liberals have done in healthcare, autism, those kinds of things. Those are things that the NDP disagree on. But other than that, the NDP and the Liberals are the same party. It's going to be the Progressive Conservative Party of Doug Ford, who is a man of the people, a populist conservative. He gives out his personal phone number, so you will have the ear of the most powerful, second most powerful human being in this country. He gives out his phone number. He is known, he has a proven track record of being a people person, a man of the people. You're going to have him. And then you're going to have Kathleen Wynne, who has drained our jobs and given them to Donald Trump. You know, with Kathleen Wynne in power, it's Christmas Day every day for Donald Trump and the Americans, because they just keep taking Ontario jobs and Canadian jobs, just keep taking them, thanks to Justin the Mac Daddy Trudeau, the long-haired swift-footed Mac Daddy Trudeau, along with Kathleen Cowperthwaite Jezebel Wynne and Rachel Notley. Those three have made Donald Trump's time as presidency Christmas Day every day. They have given them almost all of our jobs. We almost have no more jobs left in this country. We have almost nothing left. I mean, we sooner might as well just pick up some shoe polish and go on Yonge Street in Toronto and shine shoes. Because that's all we're going to be having with these three. So you have Kathleen Wynne, who has taken our jobs away, raised our hydro rates, raised the price of living in Ontario, all that stuff. And then you have a party run by Andrea Horwath and the NDP, which is just a proxy of the Liberals. That's what they are. Now, there used to be a big difference between the NDP and the Liberals. A huge difference. The NDP used to be a left-wing populist party. They used to be on the left, unlike the Liberals, who are more opportunists, and they can be center-left when it suits them, in the case of the Trudeaus, or they can be center-right, globalist neoliberals like Chrétien and Martin when it suits them. The Liberals move with the wind, but the NDP were grassroots, left-wing socialist party. Tommy Douglas, Ed Broadbent, those people, they're gone. That NDP is gone. There is no more Ed Broadbent. There is no Tommy. Tommy Douglas is rolling in his grave right now, looking at the NDP party of Ontario, even though he's from Saskatchewan. Ed Broadbent is well, he's not dead yet, but I mean, that's it. There is no NDP. The NDP is done in Ontario. What they care about are the gender, this, male, female, there's more than two genders, you can't do the right pronouns, that kind of stuff. That's all they care about. And LGBT and that's all they care about. That's really, and then they also support all the other stuff that Kathleen Cowperthwaite Jezebel Wynne supports. A big example is the Green Energy Act. The Green Energy Act is one of the biggest reasons why we have the highest hydro rates in Canada. What the Green Energy Act of Ontario is that it's basically saying that we are going to get the greenest form of energy, which is usually the most expensive, and we're going to just say to hell with all the others. I mean, that's what the Ontario government is saying. That's sort of what it is. I'm not sure if that's completely what it is, but with that, actually, I have the actual definition of the Green Energy Act. Let me pull that up. Because the Green Energy Act is one of the biggest reasons why we have hydro rates. The Ontario Green Energy Act of 2009, introduced in the Ontario legislature on February the 23rd, 2009, is intended to expand renewable energy production, encourage energy conservation, and create green jobs. Now, the problem with that is that the Liberals said that it was going to create 50,000 jobs, but it's only created 31,000 jobs, and it's made our hydro system even more expensive and has actually lost more jobs than it's created, because now businesses can't pay for its hydro, and businesses are leaving for other provinces and other countries. And then Ontario, I mean, yeah, we get jobs created, but it's really either government jobs for connected people or jobs where you need to study all this sort of stuff in university and go into debt and hope and pray that you get picked. That's the kind of jobs we're getting. And then, of course, you can flip some burgers, but, manufacturing is completely dead in Ontario. Don't even talk about manufacturing. You see manufacturing towns in rural Ontario, they look like something from Somalia or something. Somalia looks better than, I would sooner move to Somalia than move to a city in northern Ontario. Sign me up for Somalia right the hell now. Sign me up. I'd sooner be living in Cote d'Ivoire, dancing with my ancestors, than live in a town in northern Ontario where all the jobs have left and the place looks like a complete mess. I ain't trying to criticize anyone. I'm just telling you the truth. And that's because of Jezebel. I think northern Ontario would be foolish and stupid to vote. Any constituency in northern Ontario would be stupid to vote for a Liberal. I don't care it could be Jesus Christ. That's the Liberal record. But the NDP have supported the Green Energy Act, and they continue to support the Green Energy Act, and they say they would keep the Green Energy Act. So the NDP is no different than the Liberals. They're no different. There's no difference. The only few differences that there are is that the NDP think that Hydro One should be public. The Liberals say it should be private. My personal opinion should be it should be demonopolized. The Green Energy Act should be torn up and it should be private. If it's private and demonopolized, then the consumer gets to choose the price. And then the Green Energy Act is replaced with maybe a cheap energy act where we choose the cheapest form of energy. And when we can tell the fossil fuel industry to plant trees, and if you cut down one tree, you plant two more in its place, that would make hydro prices go down rather than this Green Energy Act. But the NDP support it. And they support the raise in the $15 minimum wage, which has cut people's hours, which has cut people. I left my job. I left my job the other day. I just did. They were cutting my hours so much that I was spending more money getting to work, gas, and if I didn't have a car, bus fare, than what I was bringing in. And of course, I'm in school now, my final year of school. I can't even work. So that's another thing I can't work with. And I'm doing more, and my job was night crew. So I couldn't work nights and then go to school. So I had to leave. My hours were just being way too cut. I could have worked Saturday, Friday, and Sunday, and then I can, Monday would just be a tough day. And that would be doable, but they wouldn't even do that. And I don't blame them. They need some money to go home with. The Loblaws owners need something to go home with. I don't blame them. I think it was a good move. But I can't survive on that. But that's because of the raise in the $15 minimum wage. And what I have said is that we need to have a minimum wage that is linked to inflation. So it could be $22 an hour if inflation is high, is high enough, or it could be $7 an hour if inflation is low enough. And inflation is depending on how high prices are and the cost of living. If the cost of living is low, then the minimum wage is low. If the cost of living is expensive, the minimum wage is up. I would call it a maximum wage. That's what we need. So it's dependent on the cost of living. Link the minimum wage to the cost of living. And then the businesses would be forced to negotiate smaller prices because they don't want to pay their workers too much. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm studying business. They don't want to pay their workers. They'd pay them zero if they could. But in order to do that, they would have to lower prices. And that would force other companies to lower prices so that inflation would go down. And the NDP support the $15 minimum wage, which is losing jobs, which is cutting people hours. I support people getting a raise. I do. I'm not some greedy Tory. I'm a populist conservative. I call myself a social critic conservative. But we need to do it in a responsible way that won't cut hours, that won't lay off people, that won't take away jobs, that will create jobs and will lower prices. That's what we need. Hey, I'm a populist. Hey, if I was in power, I would put a tax on robots that take jobs away from people. That most conservatives don't agree with me on that. I would say, if you're paying a human $15 an hour, you're going to have to pay the government $30 an hour for every robot that replaces a worker. That's how I would. Hey, the conservatives probably would hate me for that, but that's what I would do. Because we need humans to do jobs. Now, there are certain jobs that robots would do that make better sense, but that's what I would do. But the NDP have supported the Liberals. They voted with the Liberals at least 75% of the time in the legislature. And now that election time is coming up, Andrew Horwath is trying to out Kathleen Wynne, even though Kathleen Wynne tried to out the NDP before, and now Andrew Horwath is trying to retake that. It's a big mess. They're all in cahoots. Only Doug Ford, who gives out his phone number, who is known to create jobs, him and his brother have helped people in Scarborough and Etobicoke. That family is a populist family. I mean, even if you disagree on 50% of him, at least you know you can get a hold of him quickly. I've called him, I've texted him many times, and he almost always returns my calls. I'm surprised he doesn't. I'm concerned about him, actually. That's why I'm not giving out the phone number, because I don't want somebody to blow up his phone every day. So you voting NDP is just saying, well, it's just another vote for Kathleen Wynne, one way or another. You don't get any change with Andrew Horwath. It'd be worse. The debt would go even higher, and when the debt goes too high, then we end up paying more money for the interest on the debt than on our social programs. So the NDP and the Liberals have actually put our social programs like healthcare, childcare, education at risk By raising up our debt, we have the highest debt of any sub-region on earth. Eventually, Ontario is going to be paying more money to pay interest on that debt than on our social programs. And if we don't pay the interest, we turn to Greece and we go bankrupt. This is the Irana Nation.